A last-minute trip was supposed to be relaxing, but it became an adventure neither spouse would ever forget. Before diving into tonight's story, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button like you're ringing for room service at a 5-star hotel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we've got cooking. Sarah and Mark had been married for 10 years, and life had become a whirlwind of work, chores, and responsibilities. They loved each other deeply, but often caught up in everyday life's busyness. One Friday evening, as they sat together on the couch after a long week, Sarah turned to Mark with a mischievous smile. "You know what we need?" she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Mark raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "A weekend getaway," Sarah replied, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Just the two of us, somewhere peaceful and quiet." Mark chuckled, knowing how spontaneous Sarah could be. "That does sound nice, but where would we go? We haven't planned anything." Sarah shrugged. "Who says we need a plan? Let's just pack a bag and see where the road takes us." Mark hesitated for a moment, thinking about their busy schedules and the to-do list waiting for them at home. But then he looked at Sarah's eager expression and felt a surge of adventure in his heart. "All right, let's do it. Where should we go?" They spent the next hour packing essentials into a small overnight bag. Sarah grabbed a few changes of clothes, while Mark packed their toiletries and a map of nearby towns. They tossed the bag into the trunk of their car and set off into the evening, the sun setting behind them as they drove away from the city. As they drove, Sarah leaned over and turned on the radio, humming along to the music. Mark glanced at her and couldn't help but smile. He loved these spontaneous moments with Sarah when they could forget about their worries and just enjoy each other's company. They drove for a couple of hours, chatting and laughing as they passed through small towns and rolling countryside. Eventually, they came across a sign for a quaint bed and breakfast nestled by a lake. Sarah pointed excitedly. "How about here?" Mark glanced at the charming inn and nodded. "Looks perfect to me." They pulled into the parking lot and were greeted warmly by the innkeeper, who showed them to a cozy room overlooking the lake. The room was adorned with floral patterns and antique furniture, giving it a cozy, rustic charm. After settling in, Sarah and Mark decided to explore the area. They walked along the lake shore, hand in hand, enjoying the peace of their surroundings. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the water, and they found a secluded spot to sit and watch the colors change in the sky. "This was a great idea, Sarah," Mark said, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. Sarah leaned into him, smiling contently. "I'm glad you think so. It's nice to get away from it all, even if it's just for a little while." As they sat together, they talked about their dreams and aspirations, sharing stories and memories from their years together. They talked about their hopes for the future and the adventures they still wanted to experience. The evening passed in a blur of laughter and conversation, and before they knew it, the stars were twinkling above them in the night sky. The next morning, they woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside their window. Sarah stretched lazily, feeling refreshed and relaxed. "What should we do today?" Mark grinned, pulling her closer. "How about we go for a hike? I saw some trails on the map that look promising." Sarah nodded eagerly. "That sounds perfect." They had a hearty breakfast at the inn and set off on their hike, exploring the nearby hills and forests. The air was crisp and cool, and they relished the opportunity to stretch their legs and immerse themselves in nature. Along the way, they stumbled upon a hidden waterfall cascading down a rocky cliff, its waters sparkling in the sunlight. "Wow, this place is amazing," Sarah exclaimed, marveling at the natural beauty around them. Mark nodded in agreement, his eyes alight with wonder. "I'm so glad we came here. It's like stepping into a different world." They spent the rest of the day hiking and exploring, stopping to take photos and marvel at the scenery. As they walked, they talked about their favorite moments from the trip and how much they needed this time together. They laughed about the unexpected twists and turns of their adventure and made plans for future getaways. That evening, as they sat on the porch of the bed and breakfast, watching the sunset over the lake, Sarah leaned her head against Mark's shoulder. "Thank you for this weekend, Mark. It's been perfect." Mark kissed the top of her head, his heart full of love for his wife. "I'm glad we took the chance and came here. This trip turned out to be exactly what we needed." Sarah smiled up at him, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Sometimes, the best moments in life are the ones we don't plan." Mark nodded in agreement, savoring the peaceful moment with Sarah by his side. They sat together in comfortable silence, the only sound the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of crickets. As they reflected on their weekend getaway, Sarah and Mark realized how important it was to make time for each other and to embrace spontaneity in their lives. The trip had brought them closer together, reminding them of the joy and adventure they found in each other's company. In the weeks that followed, they carried the memories of their weekend getaway with them, cherishing the moments they had shared and making plans for future adventures. They knew that no matter where life took them, they would always have these precious memories to look back on and treasure. As they sat together in their cozy living room, reminiscing about their trip, Sarah turned to Mark and said, "Let's do this again sometime soon." Mark smiled, pulling her into a warm embrace. "Sarah, I can't wait." They held each other close, their hearts full of love and gratitude for the spontaneous weekend getaway that had turned into an unforgettable adventure.